Everyone. It's 7 a.m., August 15th, 2018, and we'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council Committee of Whole to order. Roll call, please.
Here. 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 Yeah.
I've been kinking my microphone.
We have a quorum. We're going to switch things up on the agenda a little bit. First item we're going to go to is item 2, is a request from Otter Tail County to provide a resolution of support to change the minimum age to purchase tobacco products in Otter Tail County. Andrew Bremsat.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the committee. Otter Tail County is currently considering a ordinance that would restrict anybody under the age of 21 from purchasing tobacco products within the entirety of the county. Diane Thorson, the public health director, asked the city to pass a resolution of support for this ordinance if they're in favor of the ordinance. The county had their first public hearing yesterday. The chief and I were both there. There was a good turnout, a lot of people that were in support and expressed their support for the ordinance. I just want to note that if this ordinance were adopted by Otter Tail County, it would override all of our local ordinances related to tobacco. We as a city could be more restrictive, but not less restrictive. So that's what's before you today. We have to decide if we want to offer the resolution of support, stay neutral, or take a counter position to the ordinance. But those are the options before you today.
Could we ask the county commissioner what was the background for this?
Lee, do you feel prepared to speak to this?
Well, I would just comment, I guess I want to be sure to understand that we haven't voted on it yet, so it isn't a pre-gone conclusion of what the vote will be. But there's an initiative within our public health, and the public health was responding to requests that came to the public health department, primarily from, I started with the initiative initiated by the school districts in our county that were experiencing a lot of evidence of use of vaping, and probably not the direct use of tobacco, cigarettes as it is. And then I think our safety and peace officers of the county were playing into this and being responsive to the schools, and this is what kind of brought this to the board. It came through the health department, and the administration was being requested upon as well to give this some consideration. And it's a bold move, but we certainly heard yesterday that maybe there's good reason for it as we listen to the health people from our own community here at Fergus Falls. I mean, we had just a tremendous turnout from the medical field. We had a good turnout from the schools. We had students that testified to this proposed ordinance. So we had a couple that came to try and give a counter position on that, and we heard them as well. But we were quite surprised at the Board of Commissioners for the variety of people that were coming forward with the support for the proposed ordinance change.
And there's a...
I was going to ask whether this covers vaporing too.
If you...
Yes, please, Carl.
Your chief could probably give you some background. There's a lot of details on it.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, this discussion did start last May. We received quite a few calls from the school district regarding mostly vaping or the use of electronic cigarettes by students. When I had contacted Diane Thorson, you know, really the issue pertained to flavored nicotine. They could be used in these electronic cigarettes. So the laws, it's kind of a loophole right now. So electronic cigarettes or vaping is gaining in popularity, especially among youth. There's a loophole in the law that says you can't sell actual cigarettes that are flavored, but you can sell other tobacco products that are. So really this to me really boils down to you have large tobacco that is just strictly targeting children. I mean, you're selling nicotine that's candy flavored, chocolate flavored, mango flavored, grape flavored. I mean, things that adults normally are not going to use. So that's really the issue, is that you got, you know, the big tobacco companies that are using this loophole in the law to target kids. The school district, when they contacted me last May, they said it was an epidemic within the schools, as young as 12 using it. If you just want some other real quick facts, this is from the Food and Drug Administration. They say 81% of youth and 86% of young adults who ever used tobacco once or twice in their life first reported using flavored product. So I mean, it's obviously that's tobacco's niche to try to get, you know, recruit new smokers, and they're trying to do it at a younger age, and so that's what was presented to public health. From that point, we kind of stood back and because we do think it's a public health issue. It's something that probably shouldn't be regulated on a city-by-city basis. This is really a county-wide public health issue, so we kind of stepped back from there, and this T21 initiative is kind of the end result of it. So, and I don't know if you had a specific question, Anthony, or not.
No, I was just kind of curious as to like some background, and then would this stop the sale of vaporing then? I mean, or vapor products or whatever
It would say that you'd have to be 21 or older to
Okay.
buy.
There's a second public hearing at the county on August 27th, is that correct?
Yeah, 7 PM on August 27th.
And then you guys,
Monday evening.
I tend to vote on this in September, is that the plan, Lee?
Yes, I think we'll be determining after the hearing that particular date. Yes, we're going to be brought to a vote within the next couple of meetings.
Ben,
Yes, Scott?
we'll be the first one, or Ottawa County will be the first one in the state, right? To do it?
That's what we're being told. I wasn't aware that we were the first, but that's what we're being told.
That's what I read about.
County, there's a number of cities, there's a number of
County, but, first county in the state, yeah.
cities that have,
But how many, there's cities in the state?
cities, Edina has,
Minneapolis.
St. Louis Park has, there's a number of cities in the Twin Cities.
The metro area does have a number.
I'll offer that to
Bring this to the
support,
council.
yeah, or to bring it to the council, I'm sorry.
Bring it to the
yes.
council for further
support,
discussion,
yeah.
and then,
I'll second it, Your Honor.
any further discussion from the council? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that motion carries. Thank you, Kyle, Lee. Next item, we'll go to number 1, and Amy Baldwin will give us an overview of East and West Tower Road redevelopment plans.
Morning, Mayor, council members. Thank you for the agenda adjustment. Had childcare drop-off duties this morning, so 7 a.m. is that time as well. So as the mayor mentioned, just going to provide an overview of the East and West attached developer and the progress that they have made to date and what the next steps coming up are, and an overview of the project as proposed today. In early 2018, city staff began conversations with the development group, American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation, regarding the redevelopment of East and West detached, or buildings 23 and 27, if you're looking at the overall building plan of the Regional Treatment Center, to convert it into housing units. This group has experience with various types of housing developments specific to multifamily throughout the country, and does have a focus on affordable senior products. The broader development group that they've been working with, the architect and the lead contractor, also have significant background in historic renovation projects, and they have worked together on prior projects as well. In March, the City Council authorized entering into a letter of intent for these portions of the RTC, and since that date, staff has coordinated closely with the developer to further the project. With the approval of the LOI, The developer has met a number of key milestones and advancing the project, including a full market study that does indicate demand for the types of units and the incomes that they would be projecting on those units within our area. Partnerships and relationships have been formed with various entities and organizations throughout the area, including Otter Tail County, the Otter Tail and Fergus Falls Housing and Redevelopment Authority, Mahabiatwa Community Action Partnership, and REM Minnesota, for example. These relationships anticipate working together to ensure that the housing that would be provided may best serve the needs of those who are already clients of those organizations. In the project itself, East and West Detached are each about 50,000 square feet. As anticipated, East Detached would be converted into 41 housing units, and West Detached would be 36 housing units. Again, the East Detached would be designated for low-income seniors and disabled populations. The tenant occupancy of West Detached is still being finalized as the developer looks at their various funding sources and the overall needs within the community. The developer's architect has completed full building floor plans for each floor related to the renovation of East Detached, and I've included in the packet a sample of the second floor of what that would look like from a unit breakdown and how they would take that space and divvy it up into habitable apartment units. And if you've been in the building, it's a big task to think about how that looks and how that would work. The current unit breakdown would be 8 efficiency apartments, 22 one-bedroom, and 11 two-bedroom units, again totaling 41 units in that building. The architect has been in conversations and discussions with the State Historic Preservation Office to ensure that those renovations and changes to the interior of the space, how they would envision those units to be oriented and what new walls would come up, what walls would come down, would be in compliance to ensure eligibility for the historic tax credit. So there's been regular communications over many months related to that particular component of it. The city has also initiated the preparation of a draft preliminary plat, as previously has been discussed. That would include the curved connecting hallways into this project as well. They have a use from access and other spaces, so it seemed to make sense to include that, as well as Building 11, which is the maintenance building on the site. As previously discussed, the memorial building, or Building 29, would not be included or anticipated in this plat for the developer. And as the council's previously directed, there will be an RFP prepared for that building itself and distributed to seek proposals on a reuse of the building. The developer of East and West Detached has indicated a desire and willingness to work with a successful proposer within the memorial building on items such as shared parking and site orientation, just to ensure again the best campus feel that can happen with that particular project. Additionally, we've discussed with the developer the Phase 2 demolition discussion, and through the legislative process, they were supportive of the city obtaining that funding and did express their support to that, with the condition that certainly that the historic designation of the campus would remain in place. As I mentioned, they are looking, would need those historic tax credits for the financing portion. And they are supportive of the removal of the buildings around Phase 2, including the gymnasium, and they have provided a letter to that effect as well, which was included in your packet. They really felt just keeping the character of the building and what the overall opportunity for other reuse within the primary horseshoe would be degraded by maintaining the gym and potentially the other outbuildings as well.
Did they say it was going to be a factor as far as them going through with everything, that if we left that gymnasium up, that it was going to be a problem with them?
Mayor, Councilmember Thompson, not specifically. They just wished to express that they felt not having it there would be better for the overall development opportunity.
Amy? Mm-hmm. Remind me of the timing of the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, that it's a cyclical, is it
Sure.
2 grant opportunity or is it 1?
Yep, and that gets into the financial piece as well, that comprehensive projections on operations for a 30-year cash flow and a full sources and uses for east detached have been provided. They do contemplate Minnesota Housing Finance Agency funding. The funding round in June, which is what we had started, trying to get down that road, but just couldn't quite get all the materials together. It's a large application process. So there's a June application timeline, which the developer did not get into. There's a small funding round in January, so we have been talking about the timing to get everything completed for that. It's kind of the cleanup round, so it's not a large pool of money. It just depends on which projects haven't moved forward and which dollars have gone back into the pool for the particular funding sources they're looking at. And then the next large funding application round would be again next June. So that's the cycles that Minnesota Housing runs on at this point.
Your Honor.
Yes, Rod.
West detached, the final usage hasn't been determined. When will be updated on that?
Sure, Mayor, Councilmember Speedall. From a financial perspective, they have a preliminary pro forma. As far as the use occupancy, is that
That's
the
what I'm,
finalization?
yes, and how that affects the tax credits and other things. So like, is there a TIF involved in that plan, or is it
No.
separate?
Mayor, Councilmember Speedall, there is no tax increment financing projected in this plan.
Okay. Second question, according to the gymnasium question, or following up, if I could ask our engineer, does the gymnasium impose any kind of obstacle space-wise on those plans that you would see, Brian? You know, the way the gym is laid out and then where they're at, they're quite a distance from the gym, the east and west detached. Is there any other obstacle that the gymnasium would pose from an engineering standpoint or space?
As far as remaining in place?
Yeah, if the gymnastics, if they went forward with that and we could find a use for it, do you see it imposing or causing a problem spatially on their plans?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Any provisions, if there would be addressed in the contract. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Anthony?
Could we then just go a little bit through the timeline as to when we would expect kind of some more finalized decisions? Because obviously potentially if funding goes to June of 2019, that's a year away. That's a long time.
Mayor, Councilmember Hicks, the original letter of intent did contemplate two annual funding rounds. So that is what's been under consideration, knowing that it would have been a tight timeline to get all of the components in for that June, based on the March letter of intent to get to the June date for the 2018 large application round. But general next steps will include completing that plat to subdivide the areas around buildings 23 and 27 into the individual parcels. That will be a step needed for the next Minnesota housing application, and that's why that process had started in June, and then we decided to hold off one for the reasons of the discussions around the gymnasium, that would have needed, if that proceeds, that would need to be addressed within a plat likely as well, so no need to have additional expense and process given the timeline wasn't needed to proceed for the particular east and west detached. Finalizing that purchase and development agreement, and that development agreement is what would outline those specific timeframes and necessary dates for proceeding as far as starting and completing both the two buildings, so that that development agreement would outline those specific timelines as Councilmember Hicks referenced. And then just the general support of the application to the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency that we've already spoken about. Another piece would be getting the zoning in place to help support that application. Right now it is zoned RA, which is our kind of holding district. So we do want to get that in place as well prior to the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. And again, with our city planner on board, we'll be taking a good look at what the appropriate zoning would be for that, for the property, and how to address the campus from a zoning perspective. Whether some portions remain in that holding zone and are determined, or do we want to guide uses through the zoning based on what we hope the city would like to see in those other spaces on the campus. So those are some additional pieces. If they would hope to start in 2019, whether it's a January or a June funding cycle for the Minnesota Housing Finance portion. But we do continue regular communications on different steps to keep things moving forward appropriately.
So can we get then, so like specific, then when do we think that the plat will be divided? I mean, do we have kind of like in the finalization? Will the finalization have to be done before the January application?
Correct.
So it should, we should, by the end of this year, we should be in knowing where we sit.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Amy. Next item is Ferber Park signage request, and I'll call on Public Works Director Guy Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Back in 2016, 75 or so acres of the former Norgren junkyard was dedicated as parkland, named Ferber Park. At that point, it was designated as future parkland. No plan had been developed, no budget was set in place. Since then, Fergus Falls had sought and obtained permission from the council to develop mountain bike trails on that property. So with that use being on the property, there is some traffic out there. I guess I don't know the amount of usage out there, but there's, according to Fergus Falls, quite a bit of use, which is great to hear. But the request they have is for us to put one of our typical park signs on near the entrance into the park. This isn't a typical request that we would come to you for. It's just a $1,700 to $2,000 cost for the sign. But with the original thought of it being future parkland and not something that would be developed right away, we just want to gauge what the council's feelings are on that as far as placing the sign there and having it be part of the regular city park system.
Is there money within the park budget for updating, annually of update? Because I know they've updated some signs even just this year.
Yeah, actually, all the new park signs or all the parks have the new signs now as of this year. But there is some money in the budget that we could set aside for this.
Rod?
I just wanted to speak in favor of this. I went out and walked the site with Mr. Sanderson and others when we brought it first to the council. Being on the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails District evaluation and knowing what their criteria are, I believe this park is crucial to also future options we have for funding from Legacy. The new emphasis is, just for everyone knows that, the mountain bike trails, as well as kayaking and river access and longer camping facilities that fill in gaps. So the point is, the larger picture is, I think this is a very good and strategic piece of property that we are using, otherwise wouldn't be used, and the signage simply is doing what we should be doing, is lifting it up and saying, yeah, mountain biking is truly gaining popularity, we need to have this. So I'm very much in favor of this, just speak from that standpoint.
Thanks, Rod. It would seem to me that Fergus Falls has invested a lot of time and energy into this, and we've given them the go-ahead with the mountain bike trail. So even though we may make different improvements in the future, it is a park at this point. It's a mountain bike trail park. We've okayed it, we've supported it, so I think that we need to put a Fergus Falls Park sign out.
So I'd like to offer that we bring it to the council under the consent agenda.
Saying the time, any opposition, any thoughts? Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll put that on the consent agenda. Guy, did you have one more?
Yeah, one side note along with that. Otter Tail County has indicated that they would be open to placing one of the brown recreational signs to indicating where the park is.
Excellent.
Great.
Good job.
Make sure you wear your helmets out there. It's a lot of tree roots.
And coyotes, too.
And coyotes. Item number 4 is an update on the railroad crossing improvement projects. City Engineer Brian Yavaro.
Thank you, and good morning, Your Honor, and members of the council. I've been receiving a lot of phone calls and a lot of inquiries from city council members. This is in regards to the surface crossings that are in dire need for replacement. One in particular is located at Lincoln and Freiburg Avenue. If you recall, on June 4th, presented to the City Council an agreement developed by the Rail Authority. This included the replacement of the surface crossing located at Lincoln and Freiburg, the one on Broadway North near Beach, and they also added another crossing mill between Junus and Vernon. I spoke to get an update from the local rail master. He indicated that they are actually procuring labor quotes from contractors. They anticipate that should be concluded this week. Next, following that, they'll be looking to procure materials. And in these all three crossings mentioned, this is a precast concrete surface crossing, so it's dependent on the availability of those. Once that's concluded, they will be contacting me then and give me a schedule. We're hoping to have these completed this year, but that's the best I can, that they can provide as far as an update in regards to all three of these. If it comes down to it, yes, we'll prioritize replacing the one located at Lincoln and Freiburg, and we'll move forward from there. So, and also I could just give you a few quick other updates on just 3 other projects.
Please do.
The landfill project, cell 3A, was placed into service this last Friday. We have a few.
Hey.
Yeah, that's true. We have a few remaining punch list items and a few things site to correct, but it was placed into service, so we're expecting to get quite a bit of use of the cell in the next coming years. Third project is we held a pre-con last Thursday for the College Way resurfacing project. This is a resurfacing project from Western to Tower Road. The contractor, Central Specialties, has indicated they'd like to begin perhaps somewhere around the second week in September. However, we did mention and conveyed the intentions of the Wissota modified race, and that's generally from September 12th to the 15th. So as soon as it essentially gives us a better understanding of their schedule, we'll continue to convey that race and everything to try to reduce any congestion in that area. And lastly, SHPO. We anticipate, SHPO currently is under their 90% review for the comments, their last comments for the Phase 2 demolition project at the RTC. We anticipate in the next coming weeks, mid-next September, to receive those final comments and get a better understanding of what they will require. In the interim, Stantec and I have been reviewing the record drawings actually for the gymnasium building. We need to better understand the type of work scope that would be required if in fact we desire to detach this gym from the adjacent buildings associated with Phase 2. Once we have a better understanding, we will then talk and determine if we can bid it as an alternate or not, or what's feasible at that time. So, other than that, any questions? Happy to answer.
Yeah, Rod, go ahead.
In keeping with looking forward and being ready for things, with the grants we've had and the grant we right now have in play, that's right now being considered for the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails to go from Union down through the dairy to Barefoot Park. We will have $1.6 million invested along the river and especially along the trail. And so as we get to that next section down there by Barefoot Park, will this be on the discussion, that crossing that is at Barefoot Park, or another crossing, in and out of the dairy? Because that'll be a big part of the going north and to the RTC, connecting the Kirkbride in a loop, with other trails. Just wondering where we'll be on that.
We certainly can. It's not associated with these crossings.
Right.
These are rehabilitations. But certainly under the council's direction to initiate however those redevelopment plans are for those particular areas, we will definitely be first and foremost attempting to address those rail crossings, because there's such a significant lead time when dealing with such an agency as the Railroad Authority.
Your Honor, could I request that we in the future put on our agenda I think I'm hearing that the staff would like some kind of a decision by us as the next step. Could we put that for that Barefoot Park area or another crossing on the west side?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
That's the last item on the agenda. Does anyone have any other items to bring before the committee? If not, just a couple announcements. Tonight at 6:30, tonight, Wednesday night, August 15th, 6:30 is the Greater Fergus Falls kickoff event. 6:30 at the Greater Fergus Falls is a new economic initiative in the community that we started recently. It's 6:30 tonight at the Cadets Gallery. Cadets Galleries in downtown Fergus Falls. So the public is welcome and encouraged to attend. On August 18th, out at the Prairie Wetlands Learning Center, there's a 20 years, celebrating 20 years of the Prairie Wetlands, starting at 10 a.m. with monarch tagging, and from 11 till 3 there'll be root beer floats and live music. And does anyone else have any announcements? Rod?
I've had some residents approach me with concerns about some negative campaigning things. Just remind everyone that we have to be, I guess, on our best efforts and best behavior as we campaign, and reminding all the people to do the same that work for us.
Thank you, Rod. With that, we will be adjourned.
Did you say that?